Probably one of the most common questions I get asked is how much did the boat cost, and when researching the boat, that's one of the questions that I kept Googling. So I'd like to share with you my own personal experience on board my boat. So let's start off with what the boat is. It is a 2002 Jeanneau Sonata C40. So it is the free cabin version, and it has everything on it except for a washing machine. So it does have a fridge, toilet, shower. It's got 2 cabins in the back, 1 at the front, and it's rated for 8 people to go offshore. But I seen this boat advertised for £60,000. Now for me that was totally out of budget, and originally I was looking for a boat around 32 to 36 foot, and while saving up and looking around, I basically came back to this boat and it had been knocked down to £50,000. So I went and looked at it, looked it over, and when I jumped on board I was just like, yep, this is the boat for me, absolutely want it. And talking to the broker just went, look, the guy needs to get rid, he'll sell it to you for 45,000, subject to surveyor. So I put a deposit down. Now I'd saved 24,000, which was pretty much half of it. I did try and get something called a marine mortgage, which is finance secured against the boat. So just like a car, if you're financing a car, you don't own that vehicle until you've fully paid it off. And it's the same with the marine mortgages. I couldn't get one of them because I basically work as an agency worker. My income is up and down all the time, and I get paid by different people as well, so there's no consistency. So I couldn't get a marine mortgage, so my bank basically had offered an unsecured personal loan for 5 years for 23,000, and I was paying £450 a month in repayments for it. So that's how I financed the boat, so half cash, half loan. As part of buying the boat, I got it surveyed, so because I didn't know anything about boats, this is my first one, and I paid the surveyor something like £800, I think it was, and I also paid for a £100 lift out. So there's a crane, takes you on shore, stored, so the surveyor can look around and check everything from underneath. And basically gave it a clean bill of health. He did recommend changing the seacocks. Now the seacocks are little valves underneath the waterline that allow water in and out of the boat, and he recommended changing them. So that was basically the buying process. The commission was paid by the seller, so the previous owner, and because of the seacock situation I offered 44,000 and he took it. So we'll go on to fixed fees next. Now I'm going to talk about the fixed fees, because every year you can kind of guarantee that you're going to be paying marina fees, you're going to be paying insurance. So I'm going to tell you what I pay here. So the Marina Valamin is a yacht club, and with a club you pay a membership fee. Now that membership fee is just under £400, and each month I pay around £215, and that's for me to be on gold moorings, which is basically where I've got electricity hookup. The marinas nearby, the Posh Fancy one is basically double plus VAT, so it's around £5,000 a year for me to be in that marina. But they are part of a kind of chain, so you get 30 days free in other marinas part of the chain. So if you're going cruising on the south coast from here, then it works out pretty good. The marina up the river from where I am is around £1,000 more, so it just kind of makes sense to stay here. I'm also based in Birmingham, which means it's a nice leisurely drive, takes about 2.5 hours to get here. And for those people who are in the UK, the 20-mile-an-hour zones don't really limit you while you're driving from Birmingham to Cardiff, so you're not going to get stung or anything. There is a storm coming in, by the way, so although I don't feel like I'm moving, I'm watching the camera back and it is a bit shaky. Okay, so insurance, I pay £30 a month. Now that's me with no qualifications and 2 years sailing experience. Power is basically pay as you go, like a prepaid meter. Water is for free. Internet, the marina doesn't have internet access, however I just use a hotspot on my mobile phone, and as a gamer I can use my gaming laptop on board on the Wi-Fi, and it works great. This marina has no laundry services, but I mean I just do that back at home anyway, but from time to time I have used the local laundrette, and for a suitcase it's about £25 service wash. Now with engine servicing, so I do mine twice a year, so I tend to do it in March and I do it in September as well, so that's just what the engine manufacturer recommends, or 200 engine hours, so just like a car where they say do the oil changes, that's what I do. So for that it's around £130, and that includes the oil filter, the engine filter on the actual engine itself. Now I've got 2 inline filters and they're only about £5 each, and then I also allow for about £50 extra when I'm changing the belt on there, or if I'm changing the glow plugs or painting it to make it look a bit prettier, or changing the air filter. Another couple of costs you'll have is the butane gas. So these stoves are butane for the most part, or propane. Now I've got a 7 kilogram butane gas bottle. For a refill it's about, I've paid £22 and I've paid £35 for a refill. That lasts between about 3-4 months. That's cooking 2 meals a day on there. And then I also use an app called Navionics, so that's about £30 for the year. For those people who know nothing about boats, which is what I'm filming for, it's basically Google Maps for the sea. It basically tells you the depths, kind of calculates your routes and everything. You know, take it with a pinch of salt though. But we'll get on to year 1 now. Now, for me, the first year of owning the boat was 2019, and what the surveyor had told me about the seacocks, I got the boat lifted out. So the lift out was £160 to take the boat in and out. Now, my understanding compared to other marinas, this is a lot more affordable than other ones. But while I got the boat out, I got somebody else to change the seacocks. Now he just went for off the shelf whatever was available, and they are brass, I think they're made from, or copper or something, but I'll be changing them to the true design ones next time. If you ask around, people say change them every 5 years, other people say change them every 10 years, so it is what it is. But anyway, that was £1,700 to change 6 of them, and he also changed the pipes as well. So for like the toilet, for example, you've got a water intake from the outside and then it cycles it through to the out. You've also got it from the engine and underneath basically where all the plumbing and sinks are. I also, while I had the boat out, I did the anti-fouling, so I did that myself. So I used the paint called VC Offshore. So with that one you don't need to prime it, you don't need any primer. It is around £130 a can, and I needed 3 of those, so basically £390. I also, when I bought the boat a few months after, the batteries kept dying, and basically it turned out that the battery charger itself for the shore power was faulty, so it wasn't charging the batteries. I did want the lithium ones, but they're just too expensive, so I brought these 110 amp hour Hankook batteries. They were £90 each, and I brought 4 of them, and I also brought a new starter battery at the same time, but different brand, and that was £110. When I got the boat as well, I didn't have any tools, so for things like a sander, drill, polisher and toolbox, so I got like a nice little suitcase toolbox that I recommend. I'll leave that link in the description for you as well if you want to have a little look. So I spent about £500–600 on those tools. I mean, obviously if you've got your own ones from home, that's great, but you know, you do want to have some on the boat because things do break constantly. Sorry, I made a spreadsheet. I'm a bit more organised on this video. So I brought the shower on board. The pump wasn't working correctly, so I brought a whale shower drain pump, and that was £140. I also brought a freshwater pump because the one that was on board kept leaking. So it's like the seal on the diaphragm. Now, if you're buying a rebuild kit, you know, for 20 quid more, you can buy a brand new one. So I did that, and that was £90. When I brought the boat, it only had in the main area 4 lights, so it was super dark in here. So I brought some extra puck lights. So the lights that I installed are above the cooker, and then one over on this side here. So this whole area is pretty dark. There are a little bit of a light underneath the cabin here, but that was it really. Now I also needed a UV sacrificial strip for the jib. So on the front sail it rolls around, and on the outside of the sail they put like a canvas strip, so basically the sun and the elements wear that bit first, which is more affordable than replacing a new sail. So the first year I spent just around £4,000 on the first year of owning the boat. Now the second year of owning the boat, so I keep looking, it's just that I got the spreadsheet in front of me, but 2020, which was the lockdown year for the UK, I changed a lot of the running rigging. So those are the ropes that basically put the jib and the mainsail and everything. So I used Marlow double braided stuff, which is the premium stronger stuff, and that was about £400. And for that I changed the jib sheets, lines, and the in and out haul. So about 4 different ropes, so about 100 quid each, let's say. Now I did have an issue with the InMastFurling sail. So my main rolls in and out of the main, which is good for single-handed, and it is good for when it works, you know, which is when you've got a new sail, works great. But because it was getting stuck, because there is a bit of a knack to it, I bought these Selden blocks, which are like they got ball bearings inside, so as they come under load, they help basically pull it in and out. So they are the fancy ones. I brought about 5 of them, and that was £250. Now when I bought the boat, it did have a spray hood, however a couple of the windows had been blown out. I found a dude on eBay who was based in Swansea, and he took a template from my spray hood, and it was £450. I went for grey, and it's in a material called Salida. Looks great, works great, and yeah, I'm very happy with it. And then I also brought a water tap. So my former lady friend, basically she drank loads and loads of water, like I'm talking like 5-6 litres a day, but yeah, I installed that, so it's got a little charcoal filter underneath, I think it's made from. Yeah, so just keeps the tank water extra clean. Anyway, I also brought a 170 watt solar panel. So I did have an 80 watt one on board when I brought it, just in front of the spray hood, and I upgraded that one to a 171, and that was basically it for lockdown. Okay, so I did want to spend more money during lockdown, especially getting a cockpit enclosure, which is basically a big tent on the back of the boat that you see. However, during lockdown, because I'm a agency worker who was paid 0-hour contract, basically I didn't get any furlough, and I didn't really get any government grants or anything. So basically my income during lockdown was £10 a month. So for those who think that £10 a month is not a lot of money, it isn't. So that was basically my experience for the year, and then we'll go on to 2001 when things started getting out, you know what I mean. Now during lockdown, a few weeks in, I did manage to find a minimum wage job, so it basically paid enough to keep the lights on and diesel tank full, but nothing else, because of course I do have the loan repayments, and I've got the mooring fees and everything. But year 3 was very much I started getting a bit more back into work, because I realised that I can only really depend on myself. I went the electronic routes, so what I did was I got an inverter for the boat, which was enough to handle my coffee machine as a coffee fan. I also brought 2 solar chargers by Victron, so all my stuff is Victron, which is the more fancy expensive stuff. I brought 2 of those chargers. They were basically £200 combined. I also brought a flexible solar panel. I went all out on the flexible solar panel on top of the SpreyHood, and that was £450 for a sun power one. And then I also brought another one Renogy panel, which is the budget one, for £120. I did a side-by-side comparison, and the cheaper one wins, so it is what it is. And I also got the rigging changed, and that was £2,800, so that was the big job for that year. Now on year 4, I brought a new Garmin chart plotter, which didn't come with the maps, and that was £1,000. I did find a copy of a card on eBay for £50 because Garmin wanted £350 for it. I also brought the Garmin Cruiser Pack, which basically measures the depth, the water speed, the wind speed, everything on there. So I kind of only had half of those on the boat when I brought it, so it didn't come with a wind transducer. It did come with a depth transducer, which is basically the only one that you really need anyway. Now, I also crashed the boat into a wall. Accidents happen. I'm not very good, admittedly, but I mean, to be fair, it wasn't really my fault. We'd motor cruised from Cardiff to Lundy to Crivelli, and then on the way into Watchet, we were sailing on a wave. We put it into neutral. Next thing you know, the engine cuts out. The wind and waves are pushing us towards shore, but we need to take a sharp left. So luckily, the engine came on for 2 shakes of a jiffy just to get us in. So naturally, when we went to the pub after that, and yeah, it was just basically a blocked filter. So I made a fuel polisher. So I'm going to share that video with you because it was super easy to make. Cost you about 100 quid to make, and you'll clean the tanks out. So year 5 this year, I actually brought a new mainsail because my one kept jamming and it needed to be renewed. So you're meant to renew them about every 5 years. Now, it was very much a minefield, the buying the sail. So I spoke to 5 separate companies and got 5 very different answers. So the one that I went with was a company called Sail. It was the same mainsail that I had on the boat previously. And if you look around the boats, they're like they're a big company. And they do a lot of production boat ones. But basically, I had people saying what I want is a nice, the thicker, fancier material with the vertical battens, so you get a better sail shape. And then I had other people saying, oh yeah, you want to go for the thicker one. However, don't get the battens because they'll jam in the groove. And then, like, as they go in and out. And then I had another one which was saying, you know, you can do, basically gave loads of different examples, and basically got bored after talking to them for about an hour. And then Hyde was basically like, look, just get the cheapest material. Yeah, you'll have to swap it out, like I say, a year before, but because it's a thinner, lighter material, it will go, it should go in and out the mast. And he says, whatever you do, do not get the battens on the sail, whoever you choose. So there's no pressure or anything, not sponsored by them. I just want to throw that out there. It was just that, as it says, came with the boat. So I was just watching the playback and I just see how much the boat's actually moving. I can't feel that this boat is actually moving, but there is a storm out there, so it's hitting about, you know, 30 knots of wind and gusting 40 that I've seen on there. So anyway, the grand total for maintenance on the 4 years, that's the chart plotters, all the bits and bobs, I'm just rounding it up to £10,000. So, you know, think of it as £2,000 a year. Also, my mooring fees are £2,000 for the year as well. So if you think, let's call it £200 a month. So all in all, let me figure out how much on average that I spent a month on this boat. Okay, so using my guesstimations, around £300 for both the moorings and maintenance on there. on average. As I did say that during lockdown, I didn't do as much as I wanted to do, and now I've not really been sailing that much either, and that's basically because of my health, between the health and lockdowns, let's just call it. But anyway, I do want to get a cockpit enclosure. Now I've been quoted £5,000 on that, and then I've also been quoted a solar arch of 1,500. That's without the panels or anything. Now it is coming to time now where I need to get new batteries, and I want to go lithium, and they're going to be around 3,000 for it. So got a lot of spending coming up, a lot of projects. Feel free to follow, and hopefully I'll have a little bit more sleep and a bit more enthusiasm and a little bit better weather. So anyway, thanks for watching, guys.